DBSCG things.
What's up, Yup gang? It's your boy Taxon, and welcome back to Yup DBSCG Things. And today we're going over another very exciting deck list, guys. A deck coming straight out of BT20. We have Warriors of Universe 7. Before we get into it, guys, I do want to say if you guys want any custom mats and or sleeves, absolutely check out promats, guys. This is the best place to go get your custom card needs, and if you guys do decide to get a mat from them, make sure you guys use the promo code YUP to save on your entire order. With that being said, guys, if you guys enjoyed this battle or my content in general, remember to hit all those buttons for me, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video, and with that being said, let's spin it around and dive in. Alrighty, guys, here's the deck. Now let's go ahead and go over it, starting off with the leader. Warriors of Universe 7, keyword skill, always procced on that, so if you guys don't know what that means, essentially that just means that the cards with the trait Warrior Universe 7 in their text down here means that they have no specified cost. So that's pretty cool. Doesn't really come up too much, but it does come up. Auto, when you attack with this card, you draw a card, and then auto, when you charge a multicolored card, you may switch that card to active, and then negate that skill for the duration of the game. Negating that auto for the game is fine because you're only going to use it once, because on the turn that you use that, you're more than likely going to play a Z card, which is going to proc our alternative awakening, which is awaken when you're at 4 or less, or if you have a Universe 7 Z card with energy cost of 2 or more in play, you can draw one card, untap one energy, and take yourself to 6, and then flip over. On the back side, you keep the same exact keyword skill, Warriors of Universe 7, so you can continue to pay your U7 cards with no specified cost. Auto, once per turn, when you attack, block, or play Universe 7 Z battle card, you can draw a card. So knowing that the draw on the backside of your leader is locked to your Z cards is pretty unfortunate, but that is definitely a thing. Auto, once per turn, you may discard a copy of Deadly Clash from your hand. When you use a rival to play a red-blue multicolored card to your battle area, you can choose one of your cards with a rival, and it gains barrier for the duration of the turn. I do apologize. You have to choose one of your Universe 7 cards with a rival. So if you were to play like some of the cooler mill stuff, you couldn't give them barrier. So that's the leader. Starting off with the Z deck, I'll start off with the Z deck just because it's so important to getting your leader awoken and keeping your draw power going. We got a token, just because token, it's UI. Then we run 3 copies of this Gohan. He's deflect, so he's going to be the one that starts the chain. So if anyone wants to try to hit you with a tyrannical blow, a desperate message, whatever it is, turn 1, playing him out is going to be fine because you're going to have deflect, not be affected by things like that. So if you're versing green and they open up Demagra Unison, or if you just go second and they just have a turn 2 Unison, playing this kind of feels rough because they'll just freeze a charismatic and you'll never get to your next card. He also has the Z-Stack ability. So he's deflect, Z-Stack 2, which most of the time you're never going to do the 2, you'll just do 1. When you're putting him into play from your Z-Deck, you get to choose cards from your Z-Deck and place them underneath him. This guy specifically says Z-Stack of red Universe 7 battle cards, so that's important. And then you have an auto. If your leader card is a red Universe 7 card, at the beginning of your and your opponent has 2 or more energy, at the beginning of their main phase, you can tap 1 red and then play a Universe 7 card with energy cost of 3 or more from underneath this card. The card we'll be playing with that skill is Android 17, Impeccable Defense. This guy is barrier blocker. Auto, when you play this card, it cannot be KO'd in battle for the duration of the turn, which is actually pretty good against tall decks if you go first, because you can play this out turn 2. He goes into your opponent's turn 2. He comes out, and then you have 2 blocks because you do have an activate battle limit 1. If it's your opponent's turn, you can just switch him to active mode, meaning you get 2 25k barrier blocks out of him. And then you have this other skill that you absolutely never use because it's just not good. Limit 1, pay 1 red and 1 skillless. If your leader is a red Warriors of Universe 7 card, I'm sorry, I don't use the skill, so I gotta read it. You can switch this card to rest mode, play 1 Universe 7 card with energy cost of 3 or less from underneath this card, and then at the end of your opponent's next turn, you remove this card from the game. So you would pay 2, play like him out from underneath him, or one of the other cards if you're actually playing those in your deck. You play him out from underneath him, he would be in rest mode, and then at the end of your opponent's turn, he would remove himself, so you'd want to make sure you use his activate battle to stand him up and then block with him at some point. So that is the Z-Deck, or not the full Z-Deck, but these are the Universe 7 cards that we are using to keep our leader drawing cards, the most important one being the Android 17, because he is barrier blocker, so he will sit around for longer than any of the other ones. Our last Z card is SS4 Son Goku, Defender of Life. Reason I run this card is because in late game, this card pairs very well with some of my other cards, and I'll bring that up when we get there. But if you guys know what Invoker does, it's basically going to help me. Basically, is a 2 energy version of Cat Blow, so that when I get to my Cat Blow stuff, I can do more than 2 damage. Starting off our battle cards in the main deck, we have 4 copies of Android 17 called Judgment. This guy is going to be what you want to open up every single game because he's going to play, look at the top 5, grab yourself any red-blue multicolor card with no cost limit. I apologize, this one does have a cost limit. It's the other 17 that doesn't have a cost limit. So he grabs a 6 or less, which is just about everything in the deck. It's literally everything in the deck, multicolor-wise. And then you have the secondary auto, that when you combo with this card, if you have a red Universe 7 card in your combo area, you can discard a red-blue extra card from your hand, and then you can draw a card. The reason that's cool is because you can help start putting cards into your drop area that are going to essentially be turning into red-blue energy. We'll get to that card when we get there later. Next up, we have Android 18, the sister of 17 here, Selfless Savior. This card has a permanent, which is actually very, very clutch in terms of keeping your Z battle card alive and also your Invoker 17. If your leader is this leader, and one of your Android 17 cards is being removed from your battle area, if there's no copies of this card in your drop area, you can discard this card from your hand instead of it being removed. So the reason that I find this card really good is because when your opponent does invest some energy, like 2 energy for Smoke Dragon to get rid of your Android 17, as long as she's not in your drop area, you can discard it and keep it in play, and then your opponent just wasted their turn trying to get rid of your barrier card and it just sticks there anyway. Just do note that if you do end up putting one of these into your drop area and you haven't got it out quicker than someone removes your card, you won't be able to use it. So definitely, the moment you use this, try to find a way to get it out of your drop area. There's plenty of cards in the deck that are going to help you do so. Next up, 3 copies of Frieza, Pride of the Emperor. I would run this card as the 4-drop Frieza from the I think it's Vegeta. I think it's a Vegeta starter deck a while ago. But anyways, this card is just a double strike for 2 energy because of its permanent. If your leader is actually, it doesn't even have anything to do with the leader. Just if you have 3 or more energy, you reduce them by 1 in your hand. So he's a 2-drop. Auto, when he's played, if your leader is a Universe 7 card, you draw 1 card and then choose one of your opponent's battle cards. And it gets negative 25. And then auto, if your leader is a red Universe 7 card and this card, and you would place this card from your combo area into the owner's drop area, when you activate a red-blue extra card from your hand, draw cards. The reason that can be good is because when you use things in the middle of the battle, like Emperor's Death Beam or the new Warriors Universe 7 combined card, you can actually use this card during that battle step to discard it and draw an extra card, which is decent. Really quickly, I will put it on screen for you guys though, but I will be changing this out for the 4-drop Frieza, that when you combo with it, you can put an extra card from your drop area, from your deck into your drop area. The reason I want to do that is because it will help us start charging our energy, red-blue energies. Next up, Vegeta SSB, Beyond Full Power. This guy has the same exact permanent as Frieza. If you're on turn 3, he's a 2-drop. He's a unique dual attack, which is fine. Auto limit 1 if your leader is a Red Warriors or Universe 7 card. When you I apologize. When this card, and you place this card from your combo into the owner's drop area, when you use a rival to play a red-blue multicolor card, you can draw 1 card. So these cards would pair together in terms to play some of your rival things. Like let's say you wanted to rival this Gohan. You could combo him out, use your energy to rival him. His ult is going to proc. Since you arrivaled, you can remove him from the combo area to draw a card. And then in this battle step, since you played him, if he has Invoker, let's say you want to use something like this card, because it's an activate battle, you can activate this with Invoker for 1 energy, and that will proc his auto to discard him from the combo area and draw a card, which is going to just get you extra draws, put things in your drop area like Warriors of Universe 7, which is going to proc its auto later, and things like that. So they kind of work in tandem in helping you get extra draws, but you almost never use them like that. Half the time these cards just end up in your energy. Like I said, this Frieza is going to come out and become the Frieza that when you combo with it, you put an extra card from your drop or from your deck to your drop. So next up, keep in mind all these cards will be searchable off each other. Like 17 searches out multicolors, so anything I'm about to come up after this package is searchable off itself, and this searches out red cards, so it searches out itself, this card, and then any other multicolor card. Diving into our multicolor package, we have 4 copies of Beerus Super Combo. This is a red-blue Universe 7 card, so if you see it in your top 5 with Android 17, you can definitely grab it. That's a good reason on why I like to run this card instead of others. Like, if you were running the Goku, that's if you're 5 or less draw card, if you're Universe 7, this is the only searcher that would find it.
because it's not multicolor. So that's why I like this card, because it's findable off both of our searchers, which is really, really nice. And then also it gives you an extra energy to play with when you're using your invoker things, and also trying to set up for your invoker plays like your 17 and Gohan. Next up, we have 2 copies of Gohan, Strength of Conviction. This card is not great, but it's there. You essentially want to rival this guy out on your opponent's turn 3 if you don't have Android 17. He'll give you an invoker for the duration of the turn. And then he also has an activate battle that you can switch one of your red-blue energies to active mode at the cost of not playing any battle cards on your next turn. So if you're ever in a pinch and you need to use an extra energy for something like an extra negate, or an extra Emperor's Death Beam, an extra Warriors of Universe 7 combined, that's definitely there, but most of the time you're not going to use that because you don't want to be restricted to not being able to play battle cards. Next up we have the boss monster, or essentially the boss monster of the deck. Android 17, the move that turns the tide. Yes, not turning the tide, but the move that turns it. 6-drop. Energy Exhaust, double strike, no protection, but the leader, if you rival it out, can give it protection, so that is important to know. And another thing I noticed that if you try to rival this out in your green matchups on your opponent's turn, your leader auto procs, but it doesn't trigger before turn player autos, so if they freeze a charismatic, you kind of just are dead in the water. Anyways, auto when you play this card, he is a rival for red-blue, so super combo, untap a red-blue energy, tap a red and a blue energy, and then play him. He has a permanent, if your leader is this or a red Universe 7 leader, you get to gain Invoker just permanently, so as long as he's in field, you have Invoker. Auto, when he's played, you get to look at the top 5, grab any multicolor card from your with energy cost of 6 or less to your hand, which is all of the multicolor cards in the deck, all of them. And then also KO 4 or less, which is mediocre. It's mid. That should have had no cost on the KO in my opinion. But that's mid. We got an activate battle that's actually really good. You discard 1 card from your hand and you get to use 2 Universe 7 cards with 5k combo that are either red or blue from your drop area with their skills negated for the turn. The reasoning that this is good is because late games we'll have a bunch of dead cards in our hands like this, and we can activate battle, pitch a dead card like that from our hand to go ahead and combo out these 2 cards, or 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 these 2. So essentially it's just pitch a dead card from your hand to get an extra 10k combo power, which is actually really cool when you're pairing this card with Deadly Clash, because that'll make him a 45k on his first attack and then a 35k on his second attack, which makes him a pretty big dual attack double strike, which is pretty nasty. Pretty good card. We'll move on to the next piece. More multicolor madness. Son Goku Rival Seeker. More often than not in this deck, I'm using this card as combo power because there's just so many counterplays in the meta right now that affect this card and just turn off this card's effects. Like if you're going against yellow, you can't play this card because Tyrannical Blow exists. If you're going against blue, you can't play this card because Desperate Measures exist. If you're going against your mirror match and they have Invoker live, you can't play it because they got Royal Condemnation in live. If you're going against black and they're at 4 or less life, you can't play it because they'll have Super Kamehameha live. I mean, I can go on and on. This card just gets hit by just about every counterplay that's viable right now. So, like I said, a lot of times I'm using him as combo power, but in the rare chance that I do find my opponent tapped out or just not having the defense to stop this card, he does have an activate, reason that he's combo power, by the way, in case you guys don't play Invoker or don't know. He's a 1 plus 10k, but he has a permanent that if I have an extra card, a red-blue extra card in my drop area, he reduces the combo cost into my hand by 1, so I can combo for free 10k. He is a 19k attacker, which never will attack. You have an activate main. You can choose 2 cards from your warp, or 2 extra cards from your warp red-blue. Add them to your hand and then play a 6-drop on top of this card. Our 6-drop options are Energy Explosion Son Goku and Instinct Surpass Son Goku. More than likely you're trying to go into Energy Explosion because he's going to untap the energy that you use to play him and then replace them all with red-blue energy. That's very important in turning on our Invoker because he's Invoker as well. So if you have 17 live on the turn that you play him, you'll have 2 Invokers live, which means that your opponent will have to get rid of 2 instances of Invoker before they actually turn it off. So that's kind of cool. He has an auto, like I said, pop 3 energy, put 3 back, red-blue, ignoring energy exhaust. And you have a secondary auto that when you deal a damage, it doesn't matter how you deal that damage, just if you deal a damage, you deal an extra damage to your opponent. So The reasoning that's cool is because we have cards like Catastrophic Blow in our deck that are going to help us put our opponent to a very, very lethal position. This guy right here, he's triple strike deflect, so he does have deflect. He will get around certain counterplays, which is pretty decent. He has an activate main. You can choose 2 red-blue multicolors cards from your hand and or drop area and send them to the warp, and then switch this card to active mode and minus your opponent's leader by 5k. So based off how many extra cards you have in your drop and or warp, you would swing. If they negate, that's cool. You would activate main, move 2 extra cards from your drop and hand to your warp area, and then switch them to active, neg your leader 5, swing again. If you can do this a total of 3 times, your opponent's leader will be at 0k, so by the time you actually get one of these attacks through, it'll be 35k to 5k or 0k, or even in the negs. So definitely a powerful card if it doesn't get skill negated by things like Petrification, Mafuba. Definitely a powerful card. Next up, we're going into the extra cards of the deck. These are going to be the Invoker lot, I guess I would call this. Deadly Clash. This guy is going to be the card that you discard with your leader's effect when you use a rival to play one of these 2 cards. It will give him barrier, which is pretty decent, but another good part to know about this card is this card will make your Android 17 a very, very lethal threat. So what he does is he's activate battle. Keep in mind he has a red-blue extra card, so if your 17 is in play, he is a 1 cost as long as you're paying a red-blue energy. Activate battle. If your leader is a mono-red Warriors Universe 7 card, you can choose one of your red Universe 7 androids battle cards, switch it to active mode, and it gets plus 10,000 power. Switch it to active mode, and it gets plus 10,000 power. So that's, and it's that 10,000 power is for the turn. So on the attack with him, you would swing. You'd activate here, bringing him up to 35,000, switching him to active mode, and then you'd activate his effect to pitch a random card from your hand to combo with 2 more 5Ks. And then from there, he's a 45k double strike. And then going into the second attack, he would lose the combo power, obviously, and then he would be a 35k double strike. So him himself becomes quite a big boss monster. And do keep in mind that if you rival him out on your turn, and you're not, and you're versing something that has like mid battle removal, you can just pitch one of these copies of Deadly Clash for your leader effect to give him barrier, so his protection while you go in with him. So with that being said, let's try to line some of this up a little bit better for you. We'll move on to the next extra card. We have 4 copies of Warriors of Universe 7 Universe 7 powers combined. Oh, wait, before I get into him, I apologize. There's one more auto on this card that I didn't talk about. It's actually really important. When you discard this card with your leader effect or you use it to make him a beast, what you do is when your opponent removes one of your used 7 cards, like you could play this to your battle area, and if they remove this, you can move this and a different card from your drop area, or a different Universe 7 card from your drop area, and you draw a card. A reason that this skill is good is because when you have this in your drop area, if your opponent removes one of your cards, you can activate the Deadly Clash from your drop area, warp this from your drop area, and now you got 17 live or 18 live again to keep protecting your things like your Z card or even your Arrival 17. Alright, so with that being said, let's move on to the Warriors of Universe 7 powers combined. This card's absolutely nasty. I love this card a lot. You have auto limit 1. If your leader is a Warriors of Universe 7 card and you place 1 Universe 7 card from your energy into the owner's drop area, you can, at the end of the turn, you can place this card into your energy with his energy exhaust negated for the turn, or just negated. So, the way I like to use this card is always remember it's going to count as an untap. So, let's say I wanted to rival him out. I can pay the 2. Let's say I pay, this is my, let's say these 2 are my energy, right? Or a red, blue, and a blue. Let's say I pay the 2 to rival him out. And then when I pass turn, I have 2 in rest mode energy. If this card's in my drop area, I can activate the effect to pop a Universe 7, which I would choose my mono. So let's say it's one of these 2 or one of these 2, one of your monocolor ones. You'd pop that to your drop area, charge this back into your energy in active mode, and now you have an energy to use for Invoker, which is pretty important. Pretty important. Also, that's just the auto. It actually has an even better effect, surprisingly. Activate main / battle, which is important. You get to choose one of your cards, and it gets plus 5,000 power for the turn, which means it's Sensu Bean, which is very important. It just has cards, so if you want to protect things like your Z card or your leader, definitely give that the Sensu Bean effect there. And then you get to choose one of your opponent's battle cards and neg it by 30,000. So It's just like Death Beam in the fact that it negs something by a big number, except for it doesn't get through barrier, and you replace the barrier with a bean effect. So we will give bean to one of our cards, neg one of your cards by 30, and then now this is in the drop area, so that when I pass turn on my next turn, I get a free energy out of it. Next up in our extra card lineup, 3 copies of Emperor's Death Beam. The more and more I play this deck, the more I feel that this is the best extra card to be using Invoker with. Half the time, if I'm in a matchup where I really need the barrier removal, I'll just pay 3 for this if I don't have the cards to set up Invoker and turn it on. Like in my yellow Boo matchup, if I don't want to deal with that 2-drop Boo that starts the chain up, I'll just drop this on turn 3 and get rid of it. Same thing if I'm in my mirror match and I just don't want to deal with this, I'll just drop this turn 3 and just not deal with it. We have... I'll explain it a little bit more. Activate main. You can move this card from your drop to your warp area, reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's an extra card that's red and blue, you add it to your hand. And if it's not, it just goes back to the top of your deck. You have the activate main / battle effect where you get to choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier and minus it by 30,000 power. Next up, we have 3 copies of Royal Condemnation. This card's great when it comes up, but if it doesn't come up, it's just really dead in hand the whole time. So that's a downfall. Great card, stops at 8 or less, stops a lot of secret rares if they don't have deflect, so definitely want to keep this at higher numbers, especially if we can manage to keep our 17s around. Royal Condemnation is basically God's Seal, stops absolutely everything in the game if it doesn't have deflect. Next up we have 2 copies of Sleepy Boy Technique. For when our Z cards are getting dealt with, we're just going to use this and draw 2 cards. Also important to note in matchups where your opponent plays Z cards that don't have protection, you negate with this, bounce it to their hand, and it just gets removed from game instead. Or it's also really good against secret rares as well without protection. Like if you're going against yellow and they drop Piccolo Gohan too early, they go to swing with it, you negate with this, you bounce, you choose to bounce Piccolo Gohan back to their hand, and Piccolo Gohan just goes ahead and says, I'm removed from game. Same thing works with a lot of secret rares if they don't have deflect or don't have barrier. So if you catch your opponent slipping, you catch them slipping. Drawing 2 cards off a negate is very good. Our last red-blue extra card, Catastrophic Blow. If you guys don't know what this card does, I'll tell you. Has the same exact activate main as Emperor's Death Beam and Royal Condemnation. I forgot to tell you guys that. It has the same effect. You can move from drop to warp. Look at the top card. If it's red-blue extra, you add to hand. All 3 of these cards have the same effect. This one has an additional effect at activate main timing. You can pay the red-blue or pay 5 as long as you have if you have no battle cards in your battle area, you can pay 5 to activate this skill and then deal a damage to your opponent. Or if you have a Goku in play, you can activate it through Invoker for 1 and deal a damage to your opponent. So like the main chain there is playing him out using one of the red blues that you already untapped with him on this, and that's going to trigger a deal 2. Important thing to note though is we only get this at limit 1 now. It's not limited 1, but it's we can only activate it once per turn. So if you do want to do the energy explosion guy, if your opponent's at 4 more life or 4 or 3, you definitely want to try to do this guy first. Because let's say they're at 4 life, you drop him, right? You get all your energy back. You're probably at 5 energy. You're gonna pay 2 of those energy that you just untapped for this guy. He's gonna deal a damage, and then he's gonna deal a damage, and then from there you can drop him, deal another damage, and then now all of your attacks are lethal because you just put him to 1 with 0 interaction. And he has deflect, so they can't stop him. That's one of the cooler interactions, why I like to use the Goku. Definitely take him. It's like it's a 2 energy cost of Catastrophic Blow, basically. As long as you start it off with him, because he only deals the damage if your opponent's at 4 or more life. So you gotta do him, deal the 2, take him to 2 life, play this, take him to 1, and then start swinging 35, Z card 25, this guy 35. So yeah, you just start swinging at that point. Next up, these are like our final defensive tools in our secret rare. After testing this deck a lot, I found that I was losing to aggro way too much, so I needed some type of floodgate and hard negates because the deck doesn't have hard negates besides Sleepy Boy Technique, and I'm not paying 3 for this if I don't have Invoker live. So it's very important to add some type of amount of negates that are going to provide you defensive capabilities without being the red-blue over costly extra cards. So with that being said, we're playing a mono red leader. We're playing testing the opposition. It's fantastic. Basically, when we awaken, we go down to 6. So as long as at some point we take 1 damage, we can activate this to go ahead and stop 2 attacks. Like, stopping 2 attacks in this deck is very important because we're trying to be as defensive as possible so that on turn 5 we just absolutely explode. Next up, we have 2 copies of Topo Righteous Aid. I don't feel like there's anything to explain Topo here. I like Topo a lot, and a lot of the times I'll use Topo to try to bait counters out of my opponent's hand that they could have used on Son Goku Rival Seeker. Like, if I'm versing yellow, I'll use Topo to see if they'll Triangle Blow it, so that next turn I can go into this. If I'm versing blue, I'll use this to see if they'll Desperate Measures it, so I can use this. So on and so forth. You guys get the idea. Topo, not only is it a good floodgate, but it's a good bait to make sure that my Rival Seeker is safe for the next turn. Next up, you can't play all these clunky extra cards and all this stuff without Senzu Bean. A lot of this, like this entire package right here, besides our super combos, are 1+10Ks, and then this entire package right here is just absolutely no combo power at all. So you definitely need Senzu Bean, not only to make sure that you can keep using Invoker, but to make sure that if you're in a predicament, you can untap some energy to combo with some of these 1+10Ks. And then, next up on the list, I have to go grab it because I have a proxy. Excuse me for my poor preparation. But here's our secret rare. It is proxy because I have this copy. I got it signed by Chris, so unfortunately I don't like to play it in my main deck, but when I do play it out, I'll just grab this from my box and be like, yo, this is the card that it is. I just hope you, appreciate the fact I don't want to shuffle it. Anyways, this is Vegeta. If you guys don't know what this guy does, he's 4 energy. He comes down, negs your opponent's leader by 5k, and then he can swing for a potential dual attack triple strike. In this deck, you're probably never going to get the dual attack, but triple strike's still good. And then a big part of him is that he's going to deal a damage. So if you're in a predicament like I was bringing up earlier, let's say you're on like turn 6, you can drop 3 for him, go into this, untap all your energy, go into this, go into this. You can do absolutely crazy stuff. Like, so he's just an extra board. He's a board wipe for when you need it, ignoring barrier, and gets rid of unisons, because we don't get rid of unisons in our main deck. We would side smoke to get rid of unisons, but in our main deck we don't have it. Definitely get rid of everything, ignoring barrier, and then dealing a damage is very good. Just staying on par with our kind of burn route idea. But with that being said, that is the deck, guys. This is just my testing version. I've had mediocre success with it. Honestly, I've had a lot of fun with it, but I feel like this deck falls very flat to decks with barrier removal. So if you're I hate to say this, but if you're playing this deck, you're going to find out very quickly that your leader's draw power is tied to these 2 Z cards, which means you'll play this on your turn, that's going to trigger your draw, and then you're going to block with him on your opponent's turn, which is going to trigger your draw. If your opponent some way somehow gets rid of the chain, you lose your draw power, and then you won't have draw power for the rest of the game. So if you're running out of copies of these, because that's why I run 3, so I can do it a total of 3 times. And that means my opponent would have to have barrier removal 3 times back to back. And the reason I like that is because that gives me a total of not 3 turns, but I'd say probably like 3 turns. It gives me 3 turns total to set up and prep for this stuff while they're focused on my Z card and my draw power. But with that being said, it is definitely a fun deck. I definitely recommend trying it out. Definitely put some of your own little spice on it. Figure out what works for you the best. This is definitely what's been working for me. So definitely leave it in the comments below what you guys think about it. Definitely tell me your opinions on Universe 7 yourself for this set. And with that being said, we will see you guys next time.